Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are so glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Usually when we dig into this stack of research,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, it is a massive stack today, we're looking for something tangible.
Right, something solid.
Exactly. A technology, a historical event, maybe a really complex business strategy. We usually deal in the concrete. But today...
Today is different.
Today is different.
It is. Today, we're trying to pin down a ghost. Or maybe, more accurately, a vibe.
A vibe. That is the perfect word. A vibe that a lot of you listening are probably going to recognize instantly, even if you haven't explicitly thought about it in maybe 10 years.
Oh, for sure. It's a very specific feeling.
We're looking at a specific slice of internet history. Let's say roughly 2009 to maybe 2016, and a specific feeling that just defined it.
The sources we looked at, they call it the ensemble phenomenon.
Right. And to really understand this, to get why we're dedicating a whole deep dive to it, you have to mentally delete TikTok.
Oh, yeah. Gone.
You have to delete the algorithm as we know it today. Delete the polished 4K ring light influencer shouting at you to smash that like button in the first 3 seconds.
None of that.
We're going back to a time when the internet felt, well, smaller.
Messier.
Way messier. And the core distinction we're looking at today, the thing that this all hinges on, is this shift from following a person to following a cast.
That's the crucial pivot. It really is. Most of the creator economy today, it's built on the cult of the individual.
The singular genius.
The face.
Yeah.
One person who is the brand. But the era we're analyzing, it was defined by the traveling troupe.
That's a great way to put it. Think about the difference between, say, watching a stand-up comic and watching a show like Friends or The Office.
Totally different experiences.
When you watch a stand-up comic, you're there for the jokes, for the material. But when you watch a troupe or a sitcom cast,
Yeah.
you aren't just there for the content. You're there for the air between the people.
Yes, you're there for the chemistry.
The hangout energy. I saw that phrase in the notes and it just clicked. That specific feeling where you aren't just observing a performance, you feel like you are sitting in the room with them.
You're on the couch next to them.
Exactly. It's that feeling of belonging. And we have 3 absolute titans of this form to break down today. Team StarKid, Game Grumps, and Critical Role.
The big 3.
But, and I want to be really clear about this up front, this is not just a nostalgia trip. We aren't just going to list their greatest hits.
No. Although, let's be honest, the nostalgia is going to be heavy.
No, it's going to be heavy, for sure. But the real mission of this deep dive is to figure out why. Why did these groups feel like a sanctuary? Why did they feel like home to so many people?
And then we're going to take a hard left turn.
A very hard left into human psychology.
Because it turns out the way these groups organize themselves, you know, the archetypes, the jock, the nerd, the leader, the heart, it's remarkably similar to how the human mind organizes its own identity.
So if you've ever felt like there are, I don't know, 10 different versions of you living in your head.
And let's face it, who hasn't?
Exactly. Stick around. We're going to explain why that's not crazy. In fact, it's a system. But first, we have to set the scene. We have to go back, take us back to 2009.
Okay, so the golden era of the internet ensemble. To understand Team StarKid, which is the first case study in our notes, you have to remember the constraints of 2009 YouTube.
Oh, man. 480p resolution was a luxury.
It was, if you were lucky. And there was no shorts feed, there was no endless scroll. You didn't scroll mindlessly, you searched for things.
You had to be intentional.
You committed. And into this environment drops a group of theater students from the University of Michigan.
Team StarKid.
The ultimate theater kids. And they upload a video. It's titled A Very Potter Musical.
Okay, so for anyone listening who missed this phenomenon, this isn't a 3-minute skip. It's not a TikTok dance.
Oh, no. This is the thing that just blew my mind rereading the notes. It's a full-length 2-act stage musical.
The entire thing.
Uploaded in parts. The audio is blown out. The lighting is terrible. It was filmed in some black box theater with a single handheld camcorder.
And it looks like it.
It absolutely does. And yet,
Yeah.
it became a cultural nuclear bomb for a certain generation.
It really did. I mean, it has millions and millions and millions of views. It launched actual careers.
Right.
But the question is, why? Why did millions of people sit and watch a grainy recording of college kids singing about Harry Potter?
I think the notes highlight a concept here that's really key. They call it stage first, YouTube second.
What does that mean exactly?
Right. So most content today is designed for the screen. It's optimized for retention graphs, for algorithmic discovery.
It's made to be clickable.
Precisely. StarKid was just a play. They were performing for the 50 people in the room, not for the internet. And because of that, watching it online felt like you had snuck into the back of the theater.
It felt like a discovery, like you'd stumbled upon a secret that wasn't meant for you, but you were in on it anyway.
It felt intimate. You weren't a user being served content. You were an audience member. And then there's the tone, which is, I think, the other half of the puzzle.
The tone is everything here.
It's so distinct from almost everything else at the time. The notes call it parody with love.
Which is so rare, isn't it? Usually parody is cynical.
Yeah.
I think of something like Scary Movie or those abridged series that were all over YouTube back then.
Yes. They're usually pointing and laughing at the thing. They exist to deconstruct it, to show how silly it is.
To prove you're too cool for the source material.
Exactly. But StarKid, they clearly loved the source material. They were massive Harry Potter nerds. When Darren Criss, who, went on to be a huge star on Glee and everything else, is singing these songs as Harry Potter, he isn't mocking the character.
No, not at all.
He's celebrating it. It's affectionate. It's born from a place of genuine joy.
It's that energy of, hey, we're huge nerds, you're huge nerds, let's all just get in this sandbox and play together. There's no irony.
Zero irony. And that invited the audience in. It didn't try to replace the books. It felt like it reopened the door to them. It made it okay to love this world again, even as you were getting older.
And because it was an ensemble, a true troupe, you didn't just become a fan of the show. You became a fan of the company.
That's such a key point, because these weren't random actors hired for a project. It was a group of friends. It was a troupe.
You'd see Joey Richter play Ron Weasley in one show, and then a completely different character in the next one, but it was still Joey. You learned their names, you learned their dynamics off stage from the bloopers and interviews.
And that creates something the research calls parasocial warmth. Now, parasocial is kind of a dirty word today. It usually carries this negative connotation of stalkers, obsession, online toxicity.
Right, it's seen as unhealthy.
But here, the notes describe it as a social anchor.
A social anchor. I like that.
It was a safe form of attachment. I mean, these weren't unreachable celebrities living in gated communities in Hollywood. They were college kids.
They looked like your friends.
They acted like your friends. They were wearing hoodies and jeans. And for a lot of teenagers in 2009 who maybe didn't feel like they fit in at their actual high school.
StarKid was the lunch table you wished you could sit at.
Precisely. It was a digital third place, a safe space to be a nerd. And that company identity, where the specific people matter more than any single piece of content, that's the thread that connects all our case studies today.
Which brings us to the next evolution of this feeling. We move from the stage, from the theater, to the couch.
Yes, the couch.
Let's talk about Game Grumps.
A crucial pivot in the timeline. This is around 2012.
So for context, this is the rise of the Let's Player. People filming themselves playing video games. But Game Grumps felt different. Originally, it was Aaron Hansen and John Tron, and then it transitioned to what is, for many, the iconic duo of Aaron Hansen and Dan Avidan.
And the dynamic here is so fascinating because the premise is almost insultingly simple.
It really is.
It is literally two guys sitting on a couch, looking at a screen, usually failing miserably at a video game, and talking about whatever comes into their heads.
But that's the trick, isn't it? It's never really about the game.
Never. The notes call this comedy through chemistry, not Polish. It is intentionally low production. If they burp, it stays in.
If they go on a 10-minute tangent about a band from the 80s while their character runs into a wall over and over.
That stays in. That is the show.
It feels unedited, even though it is edited. It creates that perfect illusion of just real-time hanging out.
Viewers tune in for the banter. They tune in to hear Aaron get irrationally angry at a Sonic the Hedgehog game and to hear Dan just laugh at him.
The laugh is key.
The feeling they are selling the product is, I'm hanging out on the couch with them. It's episodic content, but it's entirely relationship-centered.
There's a specific example in the notes that I think just nails why this works so well and why it fits our ensemble theme. The Mario Maker era.
Oh, absolutely. This is a pivotal moment in the history of Let's Plays. It really changed things.
So you have the game Super Mario Maker, right? The one where you can build your own Mario levels.
Yep.
And you had Ross O'Donovan, who is another member of the Extended Grumps cast, part of the ensemble, creating these incredibly difficult, frankly sadistic, trolley levels.
Just brutal levels.
Specifically to torture Aaron.
Yeah.
And the episodes were just Aaron losing his mind, screaming, trying to beat these impossible levels.
But here's the significance, and the notes point this out. This wasn't passive consumption. It wasn't just watching TV. The notes call this call-and-response creativity.
Because it wasn't just for us making the levels anymore, was it?
No. The audience got involved. The audience started making levels for them. They would design these elaborate, Grumps-themed troll levels and send them in.
It inspired viewers, including, interestingly, the persona behind our source material for today's deep dive, to actually get into game design and level creation. It stopped being watch us play. It became play with us.
Yes. It bridged that gap between creator and audience in a way that felt so tangible. You could literally build a level, send them the code, and maybe, just maybe, they'd play it on this show.
And even if they didn't play your level, you felt like you were part of the joke. You understood the meta-narrative. You were in on the gag.
You were part of the community, part of the ensemble, in a way.
Okay, let's move to our third case study. The big one. The one that arguably changed the landscape of actual media production and what was possible on the internet.
Critical Role.
The Found Family.
That's the perfect name for them.
Founded in 2015. And it started as just a bunch of friends live streaming their home Dungeons & Dragons game.
But not just any friends. This is the important part. These were professional voice actors, some of the best in the business, led by Matthew Mercer as the Dungeon Master.
The evolution of this group is just, it's insane. They went from a shaky live stream on a niche channel, where they were eating pizza and the audio would cut out,
I remember those days.
to a massive independent studio, animated series on Amazon Prime that get rave reviews, books, comics, merch, live shows in arenas.
But the secret sauce, as the notes call it, it remained the same through all of that growth.
And what is that?
Long-form, serialized storytelling with extremely high emotional investment from both the cast and the audience.
It's the balance they strike, isn't it? It's the professionalism, because they are incredible actors who can make you cry on a dime without losing that home game energy.
That's the tightrope. That is the hardest balance to strike. To make it polished enough to be watchable as a show, but messy enough to feel real. And the notes mention something I find fascinating. They call it the permission structure.
Yes. This part is so important to understanding their impact.
Okay, think about what you are seeing when you watch Critical Role. You are seeing a group of professionals, adults, successful people with careers, sitting around a table, and they are crying.
Actual, real tears.
Actual tears over a fictional character dying. Or they're screaming in victory because of a lucky dice roll. They are fully, 100% committing to the bit, doing silly voices, getting deeply, truly emotional.
And seeing that does something to the audience, doesn't it?
It gives the audience permission to take imaginary worlds seriously. It sends a powerful message. Look, these cool, successful adults care about this, so it's safe for you to care about it too.
That is so huge. It is safe to care about this dragon. It is safe to cry about this elf.
Exactly. For a hobby that was so often stereotyped and maligned, it was this massive act of validation. It removed the shame of pretending. It made it cool to care.
So, looking at these three StarKid game grumps, Critical Role, we see this clear pattern emerging. They aren't just creating entertainment. They're providing a kind of social anchor, a place to belong.
They are. And if we drill down a bit deeper, our source identifies specific archetypes that appear across all these groups. And this helps explain why they work so well psychologically.
Let's get into that. Let's talk about the anchor archetype.
This is the leader, or maybe a better term is the permission giver.
Okay.
In StarKid, you could argue it's Darren Criss, especially in that first show. He's the charismatic center. In Game Grumps, it's Aaron Hansen. He's the one who founded it. In Critical Role, it's undeniably Matthew Mercer.
So what's their function? Because like you said, they aren't necessarily the funniest person in the room or the loudest all the time.
No, their role is different. They're the social stabilizers. They're the ones who implicitly signal to everyone else, both in the cast and in the audience, it is safe to be like this here.
Oh, okay.
They model enthusiasm without irony. The notes had this perfect description for them. Camp counselors for nerds.
Camp counselors for nerds. I love that.
It's so good, right? They set the tone. If Matt Mercer is taking the lore of his world incredibly seriously, then everyone else at the table feels safe to do so. We, the audience, feel safe to do so.
And if Aaron is willing to scream and look like a complete idiot over a Mario level,
then we're all allowed to laugh and be silly too. They take on the risk of sincerity, so we don't have to.
Speaking of laughing, the notes bring up a really specific type of humor that these groups all seem to share. It's a very particular flavor.
Yes, the source calls it sophisticated juvenile.
Which sounds like a total contradiction.
It does, but it's spot on when you break it down.
Okay, so what are the traits? On the surface, it's things like silly voices, bathroom jokes, absurd escalations of logic.
Very juvenile stuff, the kind of jokes you'd make with your friends in middle school. But there's a twist.
What's twists?
The twist is that while it's juvenile on the surface, the execution is actually sophisticated in its timing, its references, and most importantly, its empathy.
And there's a crucial distinction made here in the research. There is no cruelty.
None. There's no irony poisoning. There's no detachment. It's not punching down.
It's not too cool for school. It's not cynical.
It's the absolute opposite. It's vulnerability disguised as a big joke. The underlying message is always, we are adults who still play, and that's okay. It's not humor made for parents or for bosses. It's for people who are still forming their identity. It's safe humor.
Now, before we pivot into the really deep psychology, the notes suggest we should briefly mention the almost ensembles. The ones that were huge, culturally significant, but maybe didn't stick in the same way for our specific listener profile here.
Right. And I think looking at why they didn't quite fit the model actually helps prove the rule. It defines the edges of what we're talking about.
Okay, first up, Rooster Teeth. Massive. Their core era, let's say 2003 to 2018, they gave us Red versus Blue, Achievement Hunter.
Huge cultural impact, you can't deny it. But the notes describe their vibe as bro-culture coded.
Which felt very different.
Very. It felt more industrial, more like a media factory churning out content. Emotional, it just wasn't for everyone. It was often loud and chaotic and sometimes relied on a harsher, more aggressive kind of humor.
Right. Then there's the Oxcast.
Another giant from the UK. But they were more of a networked collective rather than a single tight troupe. The notes say a shared universe, not a shared couch.
I like that.
It lacked that main cast tightness. You could get lost in the sheer number of channels and personalities. It was sprawling.
And a classic smush.
One of the originals, but they were always brand first rather than cast first.
They felt more like a sketch show.
Exactly. And they had constant cast resets over the years that made emotional continuity, that feeling of growing up with them, difficult.
So the big takeaway here is that our listener, and the kind of people who gravitate toward this ensemble fandom, they resonate with groups that are small enough to track, that are emotionally legible, and are built on chemistry, not on scale.
Chemistry, not scale.
Yeah.
That is the defining metric. Absolutely.
Okay, so we've laid out the external world. We understand why we watch these shows, what they provided. But now the notes ask us to do something a little uncomfortable. They want us to turn that camera around.
Right. Point the lens inward.
Because the source material for today makes a very bold claim. These ensembles aren't just entertainment. They act as externalized inner worlds.
This is where we bridge the gap from pop culture to psychology. And it's a fascinating leap. Think about how the mind organizes itself. When we need internal stability, a lot of modern psychology suggests we use something called parts-based thinking.
Parts-based thinking.
Right. The idea that we aren't just one monolithic self, we're more like a committee, a collection of different modes or parts that take the lead at different times. The mind, in essence, organizes itself like a cast list.
So just like Team StarKid has a cast, my brain has a cast.
In a functional sense, yes. And these shows, StarKid, Game Grumps, Critical Role, they offered a safe zone, a creative commons, as the notes say. They offered identity rehearsal.
Identity rehearsal.
You could watch these people and, on some level, try on the roles. What does it feel like to be the funny one, the leader, the quiet, smart one, the creator? You could see how these archetypes interacted in a healthy, functional way.
So the listener didn't just watch these groups, they mirrored the architecture inward.
Yes, that's the core thesis. They internalized the structure, they saw a team that worked, a system that was supportive and resilient, and they unconsciously built a similar team inside their own head to navigate the world.
Okay, let's define subpersonalities for anyone who hasn't heard the term, because I know that can sound a little sci-fi.
It can, but it's actually a very grounded concept in plain language. A subpersonality is just a recognizable mode of thinking, feeling, and responding that shifts based on your context.
And to be absolutely crystal clear, we're not talking about dissociative identity disorder, or DD.
No, absolutely not. That is a distinct and serious clinical diagnosis. We are not talking about amnesia or multiple separate people inhabiting one body. We are talking about tools for regulation.
Okay.
Think of it as a cast of inner specialists all supporting one core person you.
It's the classic difference between work you and party you, or family you.
Exactly. We all do this. But for people who are highly introspective, like the listener profile we're working from, these modes become very distinct. They develop their own names, personalities, and functions.
The notes have this great reframe that I think makes it click. Instead of asking what's wrong with me, this model asks, which part of me is trying to help right now?
It completely changes the conversation from pathology to functionality. It's not that you're broken or crazy, it's that your protector part is maybe working overtime because you feel threatened. It's trying to help.
And we have the specific breakdown of our user's internal cast right here in the notes. We're going to meet the internal ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go through these one by one because the specificity is what makes this feel real. I have a feeling a lot of people listening will recognize some of these voices in their own heads.
Let's meet the cast.
First up, we have Max.
Max is the core, the integrator, the coordinator. Max is the one who holds the big picture and makes the final decisions. If this whole system were a company, Max is the CEO. If it's a theater troupe, Max is the director.
So Max isn't necessarily the loudest voice in the room.
No, definitely not. In fact, Max is often the quietest. Max listens to all the other parts, weighs their input, and then says, okay, we've heard all the arguments, this is what we're doing. Max is the adult in the room.
Okay. Then we have Addy.
Addy is optimism. The notes call her the ingenue. She brings joy, humor, momentum. Her job is to prevent burnout and despair. She's the spark.
She's the one who says, hey, let's start a new hobby.
Let's start a podcast. Let's just go for a walk. It's a beautiful day. She is the engine of positive energy. Without Addy, life becomes a grim checklist.
Next is Bannock.
Bannock is duty. He's the stage manager or the paladin. Bannock represents structure, responsibility, and protection.
So is he the buzzkill?
He can feel like that sometimes, but he's not the buzzkill. He's the backbone. When things absolutely need to get done, when you have to pay your taxes, when you have to wake up at 6 a.m. for a job you don't love, Bannock steps in. He's the one who says, I know Addy wants to play, but we have to work first.
Then we have Devon.
Devon is the shadow, the dramatic lead, or the rogue. He handles focus, restraint, difficult truths, and isolation.
So this is the part of you that wants to listen to sad music in a dark room.
It is, and that's a vital function. We pathologize that, but it's crucial. Devon handles what the notes call reality processing. When something bad happens, a breakup, a failure, a loss, Addy wants to look away. Bannock wants to immediately start fixing it. But Devon is the only one brave enough to just sit in the feeling. He allows you to process grief so it doesn't fester.
That makes sense. Okay, who's next? Kelly.
Kelly is care, the heart of the system, or the cleric in D&D terms, empathy, nurturing, and emotional safety. She makes sure the system doesn't run itself into the ground. She's the voice that says, hey, be nice to yourself, take a break, drink some water, you did your best.
We all need a Keller. Then Kenny.
Kenny is practical. He's the producer or the fighter. He's all about realism, caution, and tangible progress.
Okay, wait. How is Kenny different from Bannock, from duty? They sound similar.
That's a great question. The distinction is subtle but important. Bannock is about moral obligation. I must do this because it is the right thing to do. Kenny is about logistics. Can we actually afford this? Is this physically possible in the time we have? Kenny looks at the bank account and the clock. Bannock looks at the calendar and the to-do list.
Got it. That's clear. Then we have Liz.
Liz is power, the showstopper. She's the embodiment of confidence, charisma, persuasion, and ambition. When you need to walk into a job interview or give a presentation or ask for a raise, you channel Liz. She's the part of you that isn't afraid to take up space and be seen.
Mac.
Mac is humor, the comic relief or the trickster. His job is to diffuse tension. He's the social glue. He handles improvisation. When things get too heavy or you're in an awkward social situation, Mac is the one who cracks a joke to break the ice and make everyone relax.
A very important role. Tara.
Tira is insight, the narrator or the wizard. Wisdom, reflection, seeing patterns. Tira is the one who zooms out. She connects the dots. She's the voice that asks, what does this all mean? How does this event fit into the larger story of my life?
Tommy.
Tommy is curiosity, the experimental creator or the artificer. He's all about invention and tinkering. Tommy wants to push buttons just to see what happens. He doesn't care if it's useful or productive. He only cares if it's interesting. He's the source of all new ideas.
And finally, last but not least, Val.
Val is discipline, the choreographer or the monk. She's about standards, mastery, and the pride that comes from doing something well. Val is the one who makes sure you practice your scales, you edit your draft one more time. She's the voice that says, we aren't doing this halfway, we're doing it right.
It is.
Mm.
It's just amazing how clearly these maps onto the ensemble archetypes we were just talking about in their shows.
It's ensemble logic applied internally. It's the same fundamental structure.
The notes break this down so beautifully using the metaphors of the shows themselves.
Right. If we use the theater metaphor, thinking about StarKid, Max is the director, Val is the dance captain, Mac is the comic relief sidekick. Everyone has a role and everyone matters, but not everyone leads at the same time. If Val is running a tough rehearsal, Addy needs to be quiet and focus.
Okay. And the game channel metaphor for Game Grumps.
It's all about modes of engagement. Mac is the chaos gremlin. He's the one who wants to play the troll levels, like Ross or Barry. Kelly is the one who wants to play a cozy, relaxing game like Stardew Valley. You engage different modes for different kinds of play.
And the D&D metaphor from Critical Role.
This one is maybe the most direct. Every class in a D&D party solves a different kind of problem. You don't send the bard, who's clearly Addy, to do the assassin's job. That's Devon's role. You need the whole party to succeed.
That makes so much sense. You wouldn't use your optimism part to handle a serious, dangerous crisis. That's a terrible idea. You'd send in your duty part or your shadow part to assess the situation calmly.
Exactly. And the benefit here is something the notes call ensemble load-bearing.
Load-bearing.
No one part has to carry the whole burden of existence. It prevents a systemic collapse. If you try to be happy Addy all the time, 204/7, you'll break the first time a real tragedy strikes. You'll just shatter. But if you have Devon to process grief or Bannock to handle responsibility, the system as a whole survives.
It sounds incredibly resilient, but here's the million-dollar question. Is this healthy? Because I can hear some listeners thinking, this sounds like fracturing yourself. This sounds a little weird.
It's a fair and important question. The source material uses a specific term for this kind of system, coping links. And the answer from the research and from most modern therapeutic models is a resounding, yes, this is healthy. This is a form of emotional scaffolding.
I love that term, scaffolding. It's a temporary support you build to construct something real.
Precisely. Humans construct safety through routines, through inner dialogue, through personas. This isn't about creating manufactured fake emotion. It's about cultivated stability. You're building a system to manage the chaos of life.
There's a really sharp distinction made here in the notes between expression and care.
Right. An expression-first model of identity asks, who am I, really? It's an endless, often fruitless identity crisis. It's looking in the mirror and asking for a single, static definition.
Which doesn't exist.
It doesn't. But a care-first model asks a much more useful question. What do I need right now?
Oh, that's good. That's really, really practical.
Infinitely practical. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I don't need to have an existential crisis about who is the real me. I need to ask, which part of me is best equipped to handle this overwhelm? Maybe I need Kelly, care, to soothe me. Maybe I need Bannock duty to just get the work done so the stressor goes away.
So it's a toolkit, not a diagnosis.
It's an incredibly practical toolkit, and the truth is, most people do this unconsciously. They have their work me and their home me. The listener profile we have here has just done the work to make it explicit, to give the tools names, and to make the whole system navigable.
And the guardrails.
Yeah.
Because there have to be guardrails to keep this from going off track.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, they're very clear. The system remains healthy as long as it bridges back to reality rather than retreating from it. These subpersonalities are tools, not dictators. As long as Max, the core, is still the director making the final call, you're in a good place. The danger comes if, say, Devon, Shadow, locks everyone else out and takes over the controls completely. That's when it becomes maladaptive.
Okay, this is making so much sense. So we have the history of the fandoms, we have the internal psychology that mirrored them. Now we arrive at the present day, the modern expression section.
And this is where we face a real challenge. How do you express this ensemble energy when you are a solo creator?
Because that's the constraint for so many people, right?
Yeah.
You can't just conjure a theater troupe or a perfectly balanced D&D party out of thin air. You can't fake a banter podcast by yourself.
And you really shouldn't try. If you try to act out 10 different people talking to each other, it can feel manic or fake. It falls deep into the uncanny valley of social interaction.
So what's the solution? How do you let these different parts of yourself out into the world creatively without, looking like you've lost it?
The notes suggest a fascinating approach. Build internal ensembles translated into artifacts.
Artifacts, not performances.
Exactly. Instead of a live performance of chemistry, you create structures, objects, pieces of media that contain that chemistry. The notes suggest a few new lanes for this kind of creation.
Let's run through these. First one is rotating perspective artifacts.
Okay, so think of a multi-voice essay or a concept album. You take a single theme, let's say the theme is loss. Then you create a piece from Devon's perspective, which might be a dark, raw poem. Then you create a piece from Addy's perspective, which might be a hopeful, forward-looking song.
So you're not acting them out in real-time conversation. You are curating their distinct outputs.
Precisely. It's like you're publishing an anthology written by one person. Each voice is distinct and honored.
Okay, I like that. Second, challenge response creation.
This calls back directly to that Mario Maker era we talked about. You shift your role. You stop being the performer and you become the level designer. You create the systems, the prompts, the playgrounds for your audience to inhabit and play in. You aren't the star. You are the dungeon master for your community.
The third one is curated compendiums.
This is a great one for the Tira Insight part of the system. Creating field guides or how-to-human atlases. You collect the wisdom from all your different internal parts and you organize it into a useful, legible guide for other people.
And the fourth lane here is seasonal projects.
This is so important for avoiding burnout. Thinking of your creative life in eras with clear beginnings and endings. Just like a theater season. You don't have to be on forever. You do the show for 6 weeks and then you strike the set and build something new. It gives you permission to change.
Now, all of this, it brings us to the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
The tool that makes a lot of this solo ensemble work possible in a brand new way.
Artificial intelligence.
AI. And this touches on something the notes call uncool sincerity, which I found so interesting.
It's a really sharp observation. It asks this provocative question. Is using AI for creative work today similar to being a cringe theater kid or a D&D nerd in the past?
Because let's be honest, back in 2009, singing about Harry Potter in a black box theater and putting it on YouTube was not cool.
It was social suicide in some circles. The threat you faced was ridicule. You're embarrassing yourself. This is so cringe. The threat was to your social status.
But with AI, the threat feels different, heavier.
It is. With AI, the uncoolness is a moral legitimacy threat. The criticism isn't, you're embarrassing. It's, you're unethical. You're a thief. You're lazy. It carries a real weight.
But the parallel is still there, isn't it? Both involve uncool sincerity, using the tools available to you to express yourself honestly, despite the potential backlash.
And the notes make a vital distinction here that I think is the hill this whole argument is willing to die on. The difference between human amplifying AI and dehumanizing AI.
Okay, break that down for us. What's the difference?
Yeah. Dehumanizing AI is about replacement. It's about removing effort and care. It's, I don't want to write this email, so I'll let the bot do it. It's generating soulless content to feed the algorithm. It's removing the human from the loop to save time or money.
It's the slop content we see flooding the internet.
Exactly. But human amplifying AI, that's something else entirely. That's using it as a tool for externalizing your inner dialogue. It's about prototyping feelings.
Give me a concrete example of that.
Okay, so you have this internal cast we talked about, Addy, Devon, Bannock, and you want to know what their theme songs would sound like? Now, you aren't a musician, can't play the cello. But you can use an AI music generator to create a short piece of music that feels like Devon. Dark, melancholic, complex.
You use it as a sketchbook.
A sketchbook that talks back. Or maybe you're stuck on a problem, so you write a dialogue between Tira Insight and Mac Humor in a chat interface to see how they would approach it from different angles. You aren't publishing it as content to trick people. You are using the tool to make the conversation that's already happening in your head tangible.
The listener stance is described as using AI like a musical instrument.
That's it. It's not about removing the human element. It's about giving your humanity somewhere new to land.
Giving humanity somewhere to land.
I'm
going to be thinking about that for a while. That's beautiful.
And it connects right back to that sanctuary concept from the beginning. The goal of StarKid, the goal of Game Grumps, was to create a bounded world that felt safe, reliable, and sincere. If you can use these new tools to build that kind of sanctuary for your own internal cast, that seems like an incredibly valid and healthy artistic lane to explore.
It's about building a home for all those different parts of yourself.
A home that is safe from the crushing pressure of the algorithm, safe from the demand to be just one thing, one consistent, marketable brand.
So let's bring this all the way home. We started this journey with watching a very Potter musical on a grainy 480p YouTube video.
Simpler times.
We moved from there to understanding that our own brains have their own cast lists, their own ensembles. And we ended with using cutting-edge, controversial technology to give those cast members a voice.
It's a journey from consumption to integration to creation.
And the final reframe here in the notes is really powerful. The listener, and people like them, aren't just nostalgic for 2012 YouTube. They aren't just missing the old days because they were younger.
No, that's too simple. What they're craving is belonging without surveillance.
Ooh, say that again. That's it.
Belonging without surveillance. A place where you can be many things. Silly, sad, serious, loud, without being constantly judged, optimized, tracked, and sold.
A place to be whole.
Yes.
And I think that leads us perfectly to our final provocative thought for the day.
It does. Here is something for you to mull over after this is done. You don't use these tools, whether it's the framework of subpersonalities or a technology like AI, to avoid being human. You use them to metabolize the complexity of being human.
Metabolize the complexity?
If your internal cast, your Max, your Addy, your Devon, and all the rest has kept you safe this long, has gotten you this far, maybe it's time to let them help you build something that makes others feel safe too.
That is a fantastic and powerful place to leave it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the ensemble, the mind, and the machine.
It was a real pleasure.
As always, the deep dive is here to unpack the next obsession. We'll see you next time.